So welcome everyone to the Startup Studio orientation. Today we're basically going to be doing an overview of the Startup Studio, what it is, what it composes of, and at the end we'll be talking about the next steps you can take to get involved as a student entrepreneur at IIT. So the Startup Studio, our goal is to bring you everything you need to create a successful startup at IIT and have a positive impact through entrepreneurship. And before I even dive into the slides, there's one thing that I like to address because it always comes up, and this is that question of, is the Startup Studio right for me? What if I'm an undergraduate, a graduate, an international student, if I have an idea or don't have a team? And the answer to these questions is almost always yes. We designed this whole program to make it approachable and practical for students coming from really any background or perspective. So if you're just interested and you have a curiosity and you want to give entrepreneurship a shot or see if it might be something that you like, I recommend you at least give it a try. So our core belief in the Startup Studio is as follows. Entrepreneurship is a team sport and you only get better with practice. And that's really two core beliefs that I wanted to include wrapped up into one. The first one is that entrepreneurship is a team sport. And that's something that we emphasize throughout the program, is that focus on collaboration. And from a very early stage, finding people that you can work with and working as a team towards creating your startup. There's numerous benefits to taking this approach. Obviously, people coming from different backgrounds, perspectives, different specialties, academically or professionally, all contribute to kind of the creativity and innovation that is necessary for the startup. I like to give an example that people don't really come up with wholly unique things. You know, if we're trying to invent a, creature for a story tale, we don't come up with something totally unique. We come up with a unicorn, which is just a horse with a horn added onto it. And that's kind of what innovation is. It's just two things from different places coming together, and collaboration really helps with that. The second piece, you only get better with practice. I really think of entrepreneurship like a sport or a skill, and just like tennis or playing the violin, you can't really get that much better from watching videos and reading about it. You have to get out there and practice it to really improve as an entrepreneur. And so that's why the primary mode that we use to teach entrepreneurship is physical practice. So from the beginning, we're going to get past the lectures and the theories and have you actually get an idea, get a team, and get going, talking to customers, building your product so that you can learn through the practice of entrepreneurship and build your muscle as a founder. As far as what the Startup Studio contains, it's broken up into two columns. On the left side, you have all of the services or ways that we aim to teach you entrepreneurship. Curriculum, coaching, community, and events. We hope that these will kind of come at you from different places and work together to create a well-rounded entrepreneurship education for you. And on the right side, we have the Accelerator, which is really the goal of the Startup Studio in the fall, is to prepare you for our Student Startup Accelerator, which is a accredited course that's going to be offered in the spring to help you take the startup that you've created in the fall and really accelerate its growth, develop the business model, and ideally prepare an investor pitch for it. And then finally, as I mentioned, we'll be going over next steps. What are the things that you can do this afternoon to start acting on the advice and information that I'm going to be giving you today? So let's dive into curriculum. I think this is going to be the most consistent source of education that is going to guide you throughout the Startup Studio. You can find it on our website under the Curriculum tab. It's basically a series of videos and articles that we've compiled from some of our favorite content creators. The bulk of the information is from Y Combinator. They have a ton of free education from their startup school curriculum. And we kind of took certain videos and articles from them and other sources and arranged them into this curriculum that we're going to be guiding you throughout the semester. And I'll quickly go over each of the modules. The first one is learning the basics, basically getting a bird's eye view of entrepreneurship, and especially for those of you who are kind of new to the game, understanding what the best practices are for getting started as a founder. The second piece is forming a team. As I mentioned, I like to jump right away into the collaboration piece. And even before you have an idea, see if you can find co-founders that you want to work together with. Number 3, generating ideas. So it's tough to find startup ideas. Arguably, the most important part of working on a startup is actually that first phase of coming up with the right idea. And doing that well makes the whole rest of the process a lot smoother. And so we use a framework called 7 recipes for generating startup ideas. They're basically exercises that you can practice and kind of think about throughout the day as you're going around and facilitating the formation of ideas almost subconsciously. And so we're going to be breaking down those 7 recipes that you can practice to hopefully form an idea with your team. The 4th curriculum module is customer discovery. So a big, I would say, misconception that entrepreneurs have is once they have an idea, they want to build it. They want to start writing code, filming videos, whatever it is to create their idea and bring it into the world. And they skip this very important step of customer discovery. And so we strongly emphasize, as soon as you have your idea, go out and talk to the people that you're trying to serve. Make sure that the problem that you're solving, you have a true empathy and understanding of that problem and how it faces the people that you're trying to serve. And so you're not just creating a solution that you think people want that they don't really want. But once you have done that and you've talked to people and you understand the problem that you're trying to solve, then it's time for what we call rapid prototyping, which is a very quick-paced approach to creating a prototype that's just scrappy enough to solve the problem you're trying to solve, while also something that you can quickly make and put in the hands of your users or customers. And then you follow an iterative rapid prototyping process, where basically you create version 0 of your prototype, give it to your user, ask them questions, really watch them interact with it, get feedback from them, take the learnings from it, and make your product a little bit better. Make version 0.1, repeat the process until you can really use that user insight to create a prototype that's essential but still does what it's supposed to do. Step 6 is customer validation. And this is really the goal of the curriculum for the fall to prepare you for the accelerator. The goal is to create a well-formed idea or prototype and then get that customer validation from 10 to 20 people that this really does solve their problem, this is something they'd be willing to pay for, validation that what you're creating has the potential to find product market fit. And then once you're able to do that, you can develop a business plan around your idea, all of the other aspects like marketing, competition, finances, etc., that you'll really be focusing on in the accelerator portion in the spring. So that's the curriculum there. The piece that's going to really help you through the curriculum is coaching. So 4 of our Kaplan coaches are here. There's also Nick Rokop, the entrepreneurship professor, that's going to be supporting us as a guest coach. And the team of us 5 are going to be personally coaching teams throughout the semester and throughout that curriculum. It's really tough to teach entrepreneurship because every person has such a unique approach to it. Every idea has such a unique set of challenges and needs in order to be successful. And so we're dedicating a lot of time to personally meeting with teams on a weekly basis and making sure that you're on track, learning from our experiences, and making it through the curriculum as effectively as possible to prepare you for the accelerator. And so I think especially since this is our first year doing the Startup Studio, we're going to be putting a lot of personal time and attention, which I believe is a great resource to help students make their startups successful even without a ton of experience. The third piece is community. I'm a big fan of community. I really think that it's going to be the thing that makes a difference for a lot of students as far as whether they stick to it, because a lot of entrepreneurship is just sticking to it. It's not giving up when things get tough. It's putting in effort week after week. And a lot of times, you need to be internally motivated and driven to create your startup, but when you're facing those challenges, it helps a lot to have people around you, either on your team or just in the Startup Studio as friends and classmates, to help you keep going. And so we're going to be doing a lot to facilitate that kind of organic community. We have events every Friday. We're going to be doing pop-up events where we bring in an entrepreneur or a guest speaker to just kind of hang out and talk shop with the different students and founders. We've got a Slack, so this is going to be our all-in-one source of communication where you can chat with one another, chat with any of the coaches, or just kind of get feedback on something you're working on, or put something random in the random channel. We have a talent engine, which is basically a directory of startups that are created at IIT and potentially looking for people with certain skill sets to join their team. and then individuals who have certain interests and are looking to potentially find a team that they can join. And so we're going to be creating this directory for you to add yourself or your startup to, and then try to play matchmaker and put together the right people. The studio pods are actually just down that hallway, and they're meant to be the co-working space for people working in the startup studio. And so throughout the week, if you ever just kind of want a space where your team can meet or you can just kind of work and be in the zone, we encourage you to use the studio pods to work on your startup. I'll be having office hours there where I'm just kind of hanging out and working on my own stuff, and I can answer any questions that you have. And so that's the real physical startup studio, is in those pods. And then lastly, as I mentioned, every Friday we have a studio meeting. That might be an event, it might be a workshop, or it might just be kind of open co-working time where we can hang out, maybe get lunch together and just work on our businesses and make it something that's social. The fourth piece is events, and so these are kind of larger scale, and they're designed to be aligned with the curriculum. And so the first one that is coming up is the VC Investor Panel on September 10th. That's going to be a chance to hopefully inspire you in the terms of directions that you may want to think about when forming an idea. So we're going to be asking them about what industries are really booming right now in the VC world. How do they think about what kind of founders and startups they choose to invest in, so that you can reverse engineer that into the approach you take when forming a team and forming an idea. And then on September 16th, we're going to have a whole workshop about Find Your Startup Idea. So those 7 recipes that I mentioned for idea formation, we're going to be breaking those down really in depth, and then giving you the chance to work on brainstorming along those recipes, and hopefully even find teammates at that event. Following that, we're going to have a customer discovery workshop all around talking to users, interviewing people that could potentially be your customers, and gaining empathy for the problem that you're trying to solve. And then we have more events later on in the semester where we're going to be bringing in entrepreneurs and founders to share their insight and advice from their experience. All right, now I want to talk about the Startup Accelerator iPro, which is really exciting to me. It's a new iPro class that we're launching in the spring, specifically for students that have already launched startups and have them validated with customers. There's a bunch of things we're going to be doing in this class to help you be successful in this semester. The approach is kind of like a flipped classroom. Most of the time in class is going to be independent work time, where you'll be with your teammates working on your startups, and the faculty and coaches and mentors will be rotating around the classroom to support and answer questions that you might have. Speaking of mentors, one of the most exciting parts is that every team is going to be paired with an industry mentor. So we're going to find someone in our network or in Chicago that's worked on a startup similar to yours, worked in the industry that you're trying to break into, that can give you really specific advice that even us as coaches don't have the specific knowledge to provide. And so they're going to be a person that's on your team that's working with you on a weekly basis, that has a lot of expert advice to give. The overall goal of the Accelerator is to help you form an investor pitch. That's really the backbone that we chose to be the vehicle of what we teach, because investors are tough. You know, they want to invest their money into the right places, and so they ask a lot of hard questions. You have to have all aspects of your business thoroughly thought out and created, and you really need to have shown adequate evidence that what you're doing solves a real problem. And so our goal is to help you hit all of those pieces and be able to communicate it in a way that's compelling and convincing for an investor. And so towards the end of the program, we're going to be helping you create your actual investor deck that you'll be able to take to investors on your own, and also importantly, pitch at our event at the end of the year, Pitch at Illinois Tech, which is our university pitch competition open to student entrepreneurs, where you'll be able to pitch to judges and investors and hopefully win up to $50,000 of prize money, which is what we offered at last year's Pitch at Illinois Tech. I'll get to you right at the end. So we're almost towards the end of the presentation. Really quick, I wanted to go over some of the prerequisites. I'll send out this slide deck so you don't have to worry about noting all this down, but very briefly, you have to have at least 3 founders on your team to be eligible for the Accelerator, and at least one of them has to actually enroll in the class. So one person has to be a student taking the class for credit, The other members of your team can still join in and participate, but at least one has to be doing it for credit. As far as what your business requirements are, you have to have a defined problem that you're solving. You have to have created a prototype or a well thought out sketch of your prototype. You have to have validated your idea with at least 20 customers and have built relationships with 10 of them that you can take into the accelerator and continue to meet and converse with. And you have to draft a business feasibility summary. All of this needs to be done by November 15th, which I know is a tight deadline. It's about like 2.5 months from now. And so we move quick. You know, entrepreneurship is fast-paced, and we definitely are catering the program to make sure that you can hit that deadline, but it'll take consistent effort. And finally, next steps. The first one, shameless plug to follow us at Kaplan Institute on Instagram, LinkedIn, other social medias. That's where we're going to be posting a lot of peripheral content that might be advice, events, kind of just random stuff. So I encourage you to follow us there. If you take out your phones and do it right now, I won't be upset at all. And then I'll be sending out an email after this orientation with links to the next 3 steps. The first one is the Slack. So I encourage you to join that and introduce yourself in the #introductions channel. The next one is to RSVP to a studio meeting. So this Friday during lunchtime, we'll be having a meeting. So I'll send you the link to join that. This one is going to be an open networking and co-working event. And so we're going to be basically introducing each other to one another, hopefully forming potential teams, and just kind of brainstorming how to get started, how to come up with ideas, what approach you should take. And then finally, I encourage you to dig into the curriculum. You can start with Module 1, learning the basics, or even go further along and start absorbing yourself into the material. Personally, I just listen to a video or a lecture on my commute to and from work, and it's a nice way to kind of get myself in the mindset before I get here. So I encourage you to find time each day, maybe carve away 30 minutes to just start working through the curriculum. All right, and that is everything I have. I appreciate your patience and open to questions now.